And thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Trump and advocates for religious liberty are celebrating after the Supreme Court released several key opinions. White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains what that means for national security and freedom.
A triumph for President Donald Trump. In a matter of hours, he can implement his executive order on immigration, 5 months after he signed his name to it. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear his appeal of the so-called travel ban after a number of federal courts blocked it. The court is also allowing the administration to implement most of its 90-day ban on travelers from 6 Muslim-majority countries that the Trump administration believes pose potential terrorism threats to America's security, overturning the lower courts that blocked it. This is a huge victory for President Trump. It's the first legal validation of his controversial executive order since he signed it just 1 week into his presidency. In a statement, he says, "As president, I cannot allow people into our country who want to do us harm. The ruling allows me to use an important tool for protecting our nation's homeland." The court order does allow travelers with a credible claim of a relationship with a person in the U.S. to come into the country.
Fair play won today.
The Supreme Court also delivered a victory for religious liberty. The court ruled 7-2 in favor of Trinity Lutheran Church in Missouri. The church applied for a grant the state was offering to nonprofits to install a safer rubber surface on their playgrounds. Missouri denied the grant to the church because it's a religious institution, insisting it shouldn't get money from the state. The Supreme Court reversed the decision, calling it odious to our Constitution.
Believers, like all people, want equality. And that's what this court decision has given us today, is that when the government creates a program, religious people can't be told to stay outside, that we're second-class citizens.
It was the first religious rights case heard by Justice Neil Gorsuch. In a separate opinion, Gorsuch, joined by Justice Clarence Thomas, clarified that the case should be applied broadly throughout the country to make clear discrimination against religious practice isn't tolerated on the playground or anywhere else. The court also announced it will weigh in on another issue important to Christians and other people of faith this fall. The justices agreed to hear a case to consider whether a baker can refuse to make a wedding cake for a gay couple because he objects to same-sex marriage based on his Christian beliefs. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
President Trump has submitted his nomination for a new FBI director to the Senate. The White House made the announcement official Monday evening. If confirmed, Christopher Wray will replace James Comey, who Trump fired back in May. Wray is a criminal defense attorney who led the Justice Department's criminal division under President George W. Bush. Wray released a statement regarding his nomination saying, quote, "I am honored and humbled to be nominated by the president to lead the FBI, the premier law enforcement organization in the world." If confirmed, the FBI director, Wray, would not oversee the investigation into Russian meddling in the U.S. election. The leader of the world's largest democracy paid a visit to the White House Monday. India's prime minister held bilateral talks with President Trump as both countries pledged to build on their relationship. Protesters also took the opportunity to voice their concern about India's growing assault on religious freedom. George Thomas has this story.
It was a bear hug President Trump wasn't expecting. Nonetheless, for India's visiting prime minister, it was a sentiment that the U.S. and India share a strong bond.
I would like to invite you to India along with your family, and I hope that you will give me the opportunity to welcome you and host you in India.
Modi and Trump spoke in the Rose Garden on Monday after holding bilateral meetings on a host of economic and other issues, including an agreement to fight against radical Islamic terrorism.
Both our nations have been struck by the evils of terrorism, and we are both determined to destroy terrorist organizations and the radical ideology that drives them.
While the two leaders met, demonstrators outside the White House called on President Trump to challenge India's prime minister on his human rights record. Christians and Sikhs have seen a rise in religious persecution since Modi's Hindu-led government came to power.
We're here today basically to raise awareness of the human rights violations that are happening within India.
Open Doors, a group that monitors religious freedom around the world, lists India as the 15th most dangerous place in the world for Christians to live.
When Modi came into power in 2014, he promised the Christians and other minorities that he would allow freedom of religion. He lied. The only people that have favored status in India is not all people, it's the Hindu nationalists, it's the far extremist party that tends to violence.
John Lutembeka, a Tanzanian missionary to India, worries Modi's government is trying to turn India, a secular nation, into a Hindu country.
I'm here to speak for the Indian church, the Indians who are being persecuted by Prime Minister Modi, by a group of radical Hindus. Christians have been killed, women have been raped, and the Hindu is taking more part in India, and it wants to turn India into a Hindu nation.
Lutembeka says good relations between the two countries means the United States should be willing to confront the often violent Hindu nationalism that is threatening to damage India's historically tolerant and pluralistic society. George Thomas, CBN News.
The White House warned Syrian President Bashar Assad. Communications Director Sean Spicer says U.S. officials have potential evidence Syria is preparing for another chemical attack. Spicer says the attack would likely result in the mass murder of civilians and innocent children. He added if Assad conducts another attack using chemical weapons, he and his military will pay a heavy price. Still to come here on CBN NewsWatch, European-style terrorist attacks could be coming to America. How can the U.S. avoid what's been happening in Europe? That is the question. Stay with us as we explore the answer. Deadly terrorist attacks have repeatedly rocked Europe. Some experts warn America is opening itself up to the same type of terrorism. Dale Hurd brings us that story now from Europe.
A once peaceful continent has turned into a battleground. Islamic terror across Europe. Could this be a preview of what's ahead for America? Former New York Police Commissioner Bill Bratton said recently that European-style terror attacks are coming to the U.S. Islam expert Robert Spencer agrees.
There's no doubt about that whatsoever. The fact is that everywhere that large numbers of Muslims settle, there's conflict.
Because, he says, the violence flows from the Quran.
The Quran says, when you meet the unbeliever, strike the neck. So the Islamic State does these beheading videos, and the world is horrified. But it's right in the Quran, chapter 47, verse 4. The fact that something is in the Quran doesn't mean that all Muslims are going to do it, but it does mean that some are. There is no doubt this kind of thing is going to happen in the United States once Muslims are here in sufficient numbers.
And with it comes political enforcement by the left, targeting those who oppose uncontrolled Muslim immigration, either with a racist label, protest, or even violence.
Americans are used to other nations following them. But when it comes to Muslim refugees and political correctness and speech oppression, Europe's reality could be America's future.
The most important thing for Americans is stop thinking that you're safe and we're in trouble.
In Paris, American writer Nidra Poller says when she emigrated to France 44 years ago, France felt safer than America. Not anymore.
We're not allowed to have ethnic statistics, but people know where that violence is coming from. Here we have a huge Muslim population that includes fine people who came here to live in freedom, and thugs and Islamists. They use the thugs to weaken our democracy. After the thugs terrorize people, then they say you're Islamophobe.
Sweden, a nation with a smaller population than North Carolina, now has several thousand Muslim extremists. Sweden also faces a fiscal crisis because it has accepted so many Muslim migrants. Swedish citizens are literally paying to host terrorists.
It could be that our politicians are so stupid that they don't understand what will happen when you bring in a lot of people from a totally different culture. Could be, but I don't believe that anymore. I mean, it's not just this government. This has been going on for 30, 40 years.
What's more likely is that Swedish leaders don't care. One former prime minister said Swedish culture wasn't worth preserving. There are many Muslims who come to the West to join democracy, integrate with society, and live in peace. But there are also troubling signs, like a poll in Britain last year that showed that 2/3 of British Muslims would not tell police about extremists. This was supposed to be a big peace march by German Muslims last week to show their opposition to terrorism. It flopped. Not only was it small, but if most of these peace demonstrators don't look Muslim, it's because they're not. Spencer says some Muslims come as colonizers to Islamize the West. That's in the Quran too.
Chapter 4, verse 100 of the Quran promises great rewards to those who emigrate in the cause of Allah and die in the new land.
Spencer was poisoned last month on a speaking tour in Iceland, confirmed by a medical exam. He believes it was done by leftists who protested his visit. Left-wing violence against conservatives has also migrated from Europe to the United States, especially with the election of President Trump. The group Antifa, or Anti-Fascist Action, is a European creation. Street battles like the ones involving Trump supporters and leftists happened first in Europe. In 1968, British Parliament member Enoch Powell was sacked after he famously predicted that mass immigration from the non-Western world would someday lead to rivers of blood. Spencer warns that river is flowing to America.
This has happened everywhere Muslims have gone. Why do we think we will be exempt? Why do we think we will be different? The Islam that is taught in American mosques is exactly the same as the Islam that is taught in mosques in Europe and in mosques in the Middle East. It's the same Quran, the same Muhammad, the same Islam. And so the same things will happen here that have happened everywhere else in the world.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Up next, we are looking at an alarming increase in deaths among middle-aged white women living in America's heartland. Get a look at the cause when CBN NewsWatch continues. People in the United States are living longer. Many are reaching 79 years of age. But last year, lifespan statistics dropped for the very first time in more than 2 decades. Researchers trace one major reason to what's happening in the countryside of America. Lori Johnson brings us this eye-opening report.
America's heartland needs a lifeline. Instead of falling, death rates are actually rising, especially for middle-aged white women. Doctors point to obesity, smoking, and other causes.
Here in small-town America, folks are dealing with an alarming increase in deaths from accidental opioid overdoses from things like painkillers and heroin. Also, alcohol-related deaths and suicide.
In recent years, death rates rose a reported 30% among middle-aged white females living in rural areas. Elaine Vance grew up in a small coal mining town. She almost became one of those statistics.
I remember doing the first time I ever done heroin. I remember thinking, this might kill me. I may die. And then the longer I was in active addiction, I remember mixing it up in the spoon and just saying, I hope this kills me. I'm ready to die.
Hers is an unfortunate storyline. It begins with taking prescription pain medication and developing an addiction that ultimately leads to heroin.
What made you do the switch over?
The heroin was cheaper, for one thing. It was more powerful. You know, over time, you build up a tolerance.
At first, getting high helped escape painful emotions, in Elaine's case, from divorce and poverty. Then she couldn't stop.
It consumed my every thought. It dictated my every action.
Here in rural America, many opioid addictions begin rather innocently, starting with an injury from a car crash or an on-the-job accident where painkillers are prescribed.
Lynn Eldridge has treated addicts in rural West Virginia for more than 20 years. She says opioid abuse has exploded like nothing she's ever seen.
They may get hurt. They are put on a pain pill. It's OxyContin or it's hydrocodone, whatever it might be. And as they go through the prescribed usage of the drug, sometimes it will just, they'll say, I felt a little better when I was taking it. And then my neighbor had some left over and I decided to take hers. And then when that got difficult to get, I was introduced to somebody who had heroin.
Compared to the city, buying, selling, and even taking drugs in the country, well, that's easy.
You don't have to go on a street corner. You don't have to go into the shopping mall. You just go out onto a back road because there's nobody around to see you.
Despite the growing death toll, people can break free.
Detox, because you need to be detoxed professionally in a medical setting so that it can be handled in a safe way. One of the newest and best, it's a game-changing medication is Vivitrol. It's an injection that is received in the doctor's office, and it will take away the craving, and they get their life back.
While Elaine credits her recovery to detox and a 12-step program, she gives most of her victory to God.
I started getting to know Jesus, and I realized that the same power that rose him from the grave is what fights addiction, not me. I can't beat it. And once I realized that was the power fighting for me, I knew I was never, ever going back.
Elaine went to One Voice, a Christian outreach that offers addicts treatment referrals, food, clothing, friendship, and most importantly, the gospel.
God gives you an opportunity to choose life or choose death. And that's what we want to tell them. So we get to brag on God and tell them that if they want to see a difference in their life, that's really the only true way to do this.
That means a lot of prayer.
Yes, you light our path, God. You are our light in a dark world. Father, help us to be that light. Help us to be strong in you.
I needed their help. I needed their mentorship. I needed their prayers. I needed their suggestions and their advice. And most of all, I needed their love. And I received all that from them. And so now I just try to give that back. I try to be that person for the next me.
You don't have to be a former addict or even a trained professional to fight the war on drugs.
You can pray. You can also open up your church classrooms to do 12 steps. You can offer a day of testimony that the voices of recovery, those that have chosen to recover and do well, come and talk. Share their stories, give hope to the others.
So while substance abuse cuts short the lives of far too many, particularly in America's heartland, it's not a lost cause. Awareness and treatment, powered by the Spirit of God, are making a positive difference. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
An eye-opening report, but still lots of hope ahead. Stay with us. There's much more of CBN NewsWatch right after this. NFL star Derek Carr is making history after extending his contract with the Oakland Raiders. The quarterback just signed a 5-year, $125 million deal with the team, the highest paid contract in the league's history. Carr suffered from what doctors said would be a season-ending injury last December, but he is now back in the game. And when a reporter asked what he'd do with all that money, he says he'll give away 10%.
First thing I'll do is I'll pay my tithe like I have since I was in college, getting $700 on a scholarship check. That won't change. I'll do that.
Carr says he will also use the money to help others around the world, including places like Haiti, and he'll splurge a bit on Chick-fil-A. It is time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and I pray this thought will bless you and encourage you to post, tag, tweet, and share with others. Consider this. When what you see fails to line up with what God says, put on the glasses of faith to fix your vision. Faith in God and in his written and spoken word are the proof of his promises until the visible signs line up with them. With that word, make this a terrific Tuesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And we'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.